Folks, what's going on? Hope everyone's doing well. Appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the pod. If you're watching this on YouTube, toss a like on this before we get started. Hit sub if you're new. If you haven't checked out the episode last week with Freeway Frank, please feel free to do so if you want to hear me blabber on for an hour without asking him a fucking question. I listened back to that interview and the whole time I was just yelling at my screen saying, ask the guy a fucking question and shut up. But, you know, that's how we do things here. We pontificate, we like to hear ourselves talk around here. Isn't that right, D'Lo? I'm joined by the one and only D'Lo. 6 months post-op? Is that right?
Yes. Is it 6 or 7? We're getting there.
We're getting to the point where it's time to start considering the return to action. And, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, folks, much going on in the world of Italian football. The Azzurri squads for the friendlies coming up this week have been released. And breaking news, as we're about to start recording, D'Lo tells me, hey, you're aware of what's been going on today. I go, please enlighten me. And he says, Acerbi's out. And I said, okay, why? And he said the N-word. And I said, is it confirmed? And he said, I don't know. And that's what we're going to have to investigate here on the pod, is what was said, whether he said it at all, if he said anything, what does it mean? Does it matter? Does it matter? Is it good that he's gone? The state of things now in Italian football is very perplexing. You know, the Italian national team in particular. I mean, because the Italian national team is where it all comes, you know, together to be shown to the world. It's almost a showcase for the health of you know, calcio, right? The Italian national team. And a couple of years ago, we were on top of it all. And you would have thought, hey, this is gonna be a great decade to come. And, you know, big psych, a year later you miss the World Cup and you're thrown back into the fucking, you know, you're thrown back into the abyss, and we have no clue where we're going this summer at the Euro. There's no clarity on who's even going to be getting called up. I mean, I guess we have a little bit of it now with the new call-ups, and we'll get into that on the pod this week. But if there's one thing I'm realizing, and we'll get into this on the pod this week, is that above all else, Italian football is still a soap opera. That much hasn't changed, and I don't think it ever will, and I hope it never does. I'm Sam Adamo, and this is the Bordello. All right, what's going on, folks? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another episode of the Bordello. I'm joined by D'Lo. We are here in the basement as per regular programming. Does that even make sense? As per regular I don't know. As usual. Fuck it. The people that listen to this are largely, it's a bit of an aggressive tone to start off on, but they're largely illiterate. I think it's fair to say, and that's okay. That works for me because I make a lot of mistakes and I don't feel like having people that read Shakespeare correcting me and stuff. I'm trying to be a better human, D'Lo. I'm trying to learn to speak better. Did you see I have a Boccaccio book here on the side that I discovered? My parents tried to give me all the tools in life. I'm named after a great-grandfather named Salvatore, but I'm named Samuel because Salvatore was too wop. My mom spoke to me a lot. She read to me. When I was a little baby, she wouldn't shut up. The goal being to get me to speak English well. A lot of money was spent on private institutions, private education to get me, you know, at a relatively proficient level of English. And how have I repaid them? I blink like a motherfucker. I stutter like crazy. I trip over my words all the time, and I haven't read a book in completion in 6 months. So, you know, I've got to start repaying them a little bit here. So I discovered a book by Boccaccio, which was translated into English. I'm sure it reads well in Italian. I'm not going to pretend that I'm you know. And already, by the way, I mean, some of the East Coast wops that listen to this now, I've lost them now by talking about Boccaccio. They don't know who that is. He's listen. I don't want to talk down to you guys, but let me just come down to your level, and I'll tell you so that you're not lost, let me kind of just shed a little light on what it is I'm talking about, because I understand I'm losing you right off the bat here. You think you're going to, you're a pod where I talk about, bro, did he say the N-word or not? And we're talking about literature in the Renaissance. Giovanni Boccaccio was a Tuscan writer. He was an author. Might have been a poet. I went to his crypt in like Certaldo, I think, where he was from, in 2012. And that's it. Really, I know nothing about him. But because I just traveled a little bit, I'm not one of these kids who was like the kid of a diplomat who saw the world. But because I would kind of go around a little bit. Like my parents took me on vacation, where they could when I was younger. I wasn't one of these kids. I was lucky. I wasn't one of these kids who, didn't go on a plane until he was fucking 16 years old. We traveled a little bit. But it was, down south, Barbados, Florida. Saw Europe for the first time when I was 12. Went to Italy. And that was really the only place that I'd been, except for Greece. But Greece doesn't count because Greece is another place that, that's where you go when you don't want to learn. Ironically, you go to Greece when you don't want to learn anything. You do go to Greece when you want to learn about history, and there are people that go to Greece to learn, but you also go to Greece when you're, there's two types of people that go to Greece. There's open-toe sandals, want to be archaeologists, and there's, bro, let's go to Greece. And it was kind of more the latter, a little bit. So I don't even count that, Although we did see some ruins and stuff, and they made efforts. They did what they could to kind of, to smarten us kids up. But we went to, so again, when we were in Tuscany at one point, between seeing family, my fucking family's not from there. I mean, we're not, let's not get it twisted. I know I'm talking about Boccaccio here, but like I'm a fucking wannabe. I'm a wannabe, respectable, member of Italian society. We're of peasant class. We're of the peasant class, as you are, right? It's fair. But when we went to visit Certaldo, this town, I guess, near where we were staying, we got to see like where Giovanni Boccaccio like wrote and died. And I think he's buried there. We went to some castle, whatever. And really, I hadn't thought about him ever after that. I think I've read zero of his work. But the fact that I know who Boccaccio is lets me kind of talk about him and pretend I'm this fucking, this know-it-all who's like, yes, are you familiar with the work of Boccaccio? I am not, but I can ask people that. Here's the thing. If I come up to you and I say, are you familiar with the work of Boccaccio? What are you going to say?
I have no idea.
Right. What are you thinking when I ask you that?
This guy's an intellectual.
Well, you think he must know. I don't. But you wouldn't think I'd be like, hey, are you familiar with the work of Boccaccio? You say no, and I go, yeah, me neither, bro. I'm a fucking idiot, Just the fact of knowing who he is has been enough for me. But I discovered a book on an old bookshelf in my house bearing his name. It was translated into English, and I'm trying to... I haven't read it yet. I haven't opened it yet, but I like having it because it makes me feel smart to have it on my, desk, on my workstation. I work here most of the time when I'm not potting on this table, so I keep the Boccaccio book on the table. And, and Luciano Spalletti's from a very similar, he's from a very close area, I think, to Certaldo. I think he's from, I don't know where he's from. I know he's from Tuscany. He's from close to where Boccaccio's from. And, Spalletti himself is a bit of an intellectual. And
yeah, he's from there.
Where's he from?
Certaldo.
He's from Certaldo? You know what? I knew that. I'd read it before. And I think I'd forgotten about it, but on some deep level, it was in the back of my brain, and I knew to make that link. He is from Certaldo, right? Yeah. Now, click on, just confirm for me, is that where Giovanni Boccaccio's from?
Yeah.
I mean... Listen, man, the star. Sometimes the stars just align. Sometimes the fucking stars align. Giovanni Boccaccio, one of the great Italian writers of the late Middle Ages, early Renaissance, from Certaldo, where Luciano Spalletti was born and raised in the shadow of Giovanni Boccaccio. And if you hear Spalletti speak, he's very proper, and he pays mind to what he says. Everything has... It's a lot of waffle, what the kids would call waffle. it's just funny to hear me say waffle because it's not. I'll be in London in a few days, and you know what? I'll be on the look. I'm gonna pretend to be like a road man and say, "Oi, man, stop with the waffle." Yeah, right. But out of my mouth right now, the way I speak, it sounds a little off. But you know what I'm saying. Some people might say that Spalletti waffles a little. He goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But he knows where he's going with it. He means what he says, and he's very specific with his speech. And I fear that there might be something that happened in the Italian national team camp just in the last day that's causing him a lot of headaches here for a couple of reasons. But one of them is sloppy speech is not something that he takes lightly. You were going to say something. Sorry.
No, I was just.
You couldn't get a word in edgewise there as I was.
I was just gonna.
As I was waffling.
I was gonna say those videos where people they're on Wikipedia and they try to link one word and go to another word just using Wikipedia links.
Yes.
That's what you just did there.
That is what.
Going from the author to Spalletti.
Yes. Exactly. So look. What are we doing with Spalletti as a coach here? I have no issue with him at all. I'm just realizing we know so little about what the fuck to expect here. When we appointed him a few months ago, there was a lot of positive sentiment around the appointment because he had just won the title with Napoli. But prior to that, he hadn't really won. Had he won anything in Serie A? I don't think so. I don't believe he had. If you go to the awards section of his Wikipedia page here, if you want to make this real simple, I don't think he's won anything.
Promotion.
Yeah, Serie C, Serie B, nothing in Serie A. Great. He won the Russian Premier League for a couple of years, but, he's owned by Zenit St. Petersburg, owned by fucking Gazprom. So, it's kind of the whole, that whole league was kind of a Mickey Mouse league, and they were owned by the one club that had, probably more government money than anyone else. Look, Spalletti as a coach has potential, but we don't know what the fuck to expect. And the reality is, you're probably going to need guys in the squad who have a little bit of experience and are relatively dependable. We're not Spain. We cannot bring up 17, 18, 19-year-old players. We just don't have them right now.
Our most capped player is Donnarumma with 60, 25 years old.
And after that, we got Darmian.
Bordello, 51.
Jesus Christ. Jorginho, 50. Look. It feels like there are a lot of new faces kind of in the Azzurri side now from where shit was at maybe a year ago. Giorgio Scalvini's getting called up all the time now, and he deserves to be. He's starting every game for Atalanta. He's playing every minute for them. That makes sense. And Alessandro Buongiorno's getting called up a lot. But he's really not all that great. Here's the problem. I'm just going to for a second here make an important distinction, okay? For you, just an important thing which you, the listener, needs to, bear in mind, okay? Assuming that you listening to this, watching this, are a fan of Italian football, probably have Italian family or a vested interest in the Italian national team. That seems to be who we get a lot of, but that's especially true when we do Azzurri heavy episodes, which this is going to be, okay? So, which are some of my favorite episodes to be. Because it's one of the few times that I get as serious as I ever get, where I'm like, "Oh, this is life or death here." But the reality is, there's a lot of fucking mediocrity in this team right now. There's a lot of fucking mediocrity in this team. And we get excited when we see a guy like Alessandro Buongiorno getting called up because we say, "Hey, new name." But I've been banging this drum on for years. I've always said this, but when you see a new name, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean he's good. Generally the best players you'll know about right when they burst onto the scene, and they'll be around for as long as they pretty much choose to be. Verratti kind of got into the team at a very young age, and as long as he was healthy, he was always getting called up. And you never thought, fuck, we're calling up Verratti. You know what I'm saying? Barella's kind of the same thing. Lorenzo Pellegrini is a really good player, one of the better players in the team. Pretty much, from the time he was in his early 20s, he was getting a look in at least. He was getting a look in, right? He was always around. Donnarumma's been around since he was 16. You force your way in when you're really good. Destiny Udogie is a good example, He's 21, and he turned 21 during the season currently. And in 10 years, he'll have been around for almost 15 years already. some guys don't get called up till they're 29. You know, Udoge is a guy who's got potential to be around for a while because he's started playing at a higher level sooner. You're supposed to start playing at a high level at 20, you know, as they do in other countries. That just happens less in Italy. We do have a few that wind up doing it, and you need to kind of hold on to those guys for dear life because they're the guys who, you know, typically will play, you know, most quickly and, you know, not necessarily with their brains, but, you know, with their bodies. But then, you know, there's this weird je ne sais quoi with Italian football where it's kind of nice to have a guy like Matteo Darmian around, you know, who was off the map for a while, who's 35 now and old, but he's, you know, reinvented, and he's mean, and he knows what to, you know, and he knows what to do, you know, positionally, he's smart, he knows how to be a piece of shit. And then you've got another guy who's nice to have around, like Francesco Acerbi. Let's get into Acerbi first, then we'll get into all the other shit, like who else has been called up. I'll say that 2 years ago, you know, I don't want to okay, I got to say this delicately. I'll first say I've never, like, really wished for the death of anyone. Not really, that I could think of. At least not that I'm willing to admit right now. But a couple years ago, I was so indifferent to the idea of having Francesco Acerbi play for Italy at another major tournament. Now, bear in mind, 2 years ago, I still thought we were going to the World Cup that year. And he was still getting called up, and I was concerned about it. If someone had given me the chance, like if somebody, like, say there was a sniper, okay, across the street from his condo, from his flat in Milan, okay? And there was a guy with a gun pointed at Francesco Acerbi on the roof. And I was given a call and told, hey, somehow you're precluded from all, like, moral, like, conundrums here. He has a wife and kids, and, you know, it's not fair. How about this? There's a sniper across the street. He's not aiming at his head, but there's a red dot on his knee, okay? His left knee, which he kicks with. And if the guy takes the shot, his knee is blown apart. He has to lose a leg. He doesn't lose his life, okay? His kids don't lose a father. I'm not wishing for the death of a guy, but if someone had told me, hey, just so you know, I'm across the street. If I take the shot, Acerbi loses his knee, you never have to see him again. I'm not saying I would have said take the shot, but I'm saying I would have thought about it for like 30 seconds. Quick, you know, pros, cons. And I won't deny that there wasn't maybe, you know, a world that existed in this hypothetical where I might have been of the mind to say, take the shot, take his knee out, I never want to see him again. What a difference 2 years makes. Now again, I still don't really love him. I would like it if we had better center backs than him. But it's like the older you get as an Italian defender, the more important you become somehow. Somehow it doesn't matter that you're old. It's the one thing that you have going for you is, yeah, I'm fucking old. I've seen it all. I know how to do this better than anyone else. I remember when he signed for Milan, he was like 24. And, you know, it was just very mediocre. He didn't really do anything with them. I think he was at Chievo Verona, had a really good season, signed for them, and just didn't really do a whole hell of a lot with Milan, and it kind of felt like he wasn't really going to go anywhere. And then he just kind of had like a career renaissance, I guess, at like Lazio. No, really Sassuolo, excuse me. At Sassuolo before, you know, really kind of, I think he got capped more while he was at Lazio. He would get called up a little bit while he was at Sassuolo, but there was that few-year period where he was at Lazio where he would get called up quite regularly. And then he just kind of, you know, joined Inter last year, and now he's like the first name on the team sheet, you know, which is odd. I don't know how it happened. Really, I just kind of accept the narrative that he had Haaland in his pocket in the Champions League final last year. If that game hadn't happened, I would still want Francesco Acerbi to have his knee blown up into a million pieces. I don't know where you're at with him, but I've not really ever kind of liked him to that extent. I think he makes a lot of mistakes.
Especially before the Macedonia game, I didn't like him at all.
Yeah.
Then we
Chiellini retired.
Then we lost. Hated him even more.
Right.
The only thing that I've kind of liked recently is now the possibility of seeing how well Inter's been playing.
Yeah, right.
Defensively, how well they've been playing with Bastoni, Acerbi, Darmian, Di Marco.
Yeah, let me watch them. Let me watch Inter and pull for them, but it's Italy. Mm-hmm. And I can pinch my nose and I could do it as a Juve fan. I don't have to feel weird about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the thing. But a couple years ago, I don't think anyone was excited about having this fucking guy around. Now, If I could have had Gianluca Mancini 2 years ago or him, I would have taken Gianluca Mancini because I like how mean he is. Now, some people will say he's not as smart, and that's true. But I like the idea of having a guy who can maybe kill someone in the game. I do think that in the Euro, it's good to have that in a tournament. It's almost good. Now, okay, bad football opinion time. I think it's almost good to have someone in your team who can get a red card in a major tournament. Like, even if he does, I get that it can kind of, throw a wrench in the gears of the game and fuck you over to the point that you will lose. But then at least it's something to, think about and remember. And, you have a scapegoat.
Sergio
Ramos. It adds to the lore. When Beckham got the red card in 98, that was good for him. It was horrible for him at the time, and he thought his life was over. But it's fun in hindsight to remember weird things that happened. You remember when Wayne Rooney got a red card in the 2006 World Cup final? Sorry, in the World Cup quarterfinal in 2006. They were playing Portugal, and Ronaldo and Rooney were teammates. And kind of Ronaldo went over to the ref and snitched on him, and he got the red card, and the tabloids exploded. That's good. Now, what I like about Mancini is he's less likely to get the red card because he's a little smart. The refs know that he's a piece of shit, but he gets into the shithousery a little bit. He knows how to play the game, kind of a little like Chiellini did, where Chiellini would, infuriate the British media, for the shirt pull on Saka, but he would somehow get away with it. I feel like just Mancini has less tact. That's the problem.
The difference is Chiellini was always smiling.
Yeah.
When he did it.
You know what? That might be the best addition you've ever said to anything on the pod. And I've liked having you here for a year, but you're right. Chiellini always smiling made it okay somehow. Do you remember when he was bullying Jordi Alba into picking the right side for us to take the penalties? He fucking he psyoped him. He was like, no, what are you talking about? What are you, fucking stupid? You don't want that side, you want that side. Hey, you're good. Hey, bello mio, come here. And he was hugging him and it's so confusing. It just bamboozles you. It bamboozles the hell out of you. He would apologize. He would go up to you and say, I'm sorry. I love you. I have been look, I'm funny. Look at me. Okay. And then he would kill you. He'd have the bandage on his head, and then he would go, woo! With the little tongue thing. He would look like a psycho, and then he would dial it back and go, sorry. He was perfect. He was like the opposite of a Moroccan guy. You ever play football with a North African guy? Some of them will go, pardon, je m'excuse. But it was kind of very transparent. I don't know if you, dude, when I play soccer with an Algerian guy, they'll fuck up and they'll go, wallah, je m'excuse, I'm sorry, my bad. And it's very transparent, but it's kind of that same ilk. It's just less charming. Because when Chiellini would do it, he, I guess he was just smiling. You're right. Mancini looks too mad. That was the thing with Gattuso. He was always upset. When Gattuso would get mad, what would his teammates do? They'd all swarm him. They'd all say, Rino, no, because they know what a nut he is. But Chiellini would never get into that. You know what I'm saying? With Mancini, you feel like you got to almost get around him and say, fuck, get away. Don't say anything stupid. Don't do anything stupid. Now, as it turns out, who's gotten in more trouble this year? Who stands to be suspended for more games now? Gianluca Mancini, who just got called up in the place of Francesco Acerbi. Look, no, we're doing a lot of skating around what's happening. Let's just address what's going on, okay, and why I'm talking about Acerbi so much here. Because he's the last name that I thought I would discuss in any capacity on the pod this week when the squad was released the other day. So, this is breaking news as we're recording this pod, mere hours ago. It was reported that Francesco Acerbi was withdrawn, or I guess voluntarily withdrew, or was pulled from Spalletti's squad because he apparently called Juan Jesus the N-word yesterday. But he didn't really call him the N-word. He said the Italian N-word. Now, which is a thing that exists that will get you in trouble in Italy, but it doesn't have the historical context that the big one in English has, right? The reason I say that is because I think most people in Italy historically have been able to just kind of operate without even seeing black people in any capacity for a long time. There's no historical relevance to it there. It's more of it's like the current slur for them. And there are racist people in Italy who will use it as a slur, But it's not the same where it was like, hey, there's a lot going back here 300 years. It's kind of that I'm aware of. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more of a, hey, it's just the equivalent word that we have when we want to say the worst thing we could say to a black guy in our language. Now, by the way, can I say this? If you're going to burn the N-word, like if you're going to use it, if you're going to burn that card, are you really going to do it to Juan Jesus? Is he worth it? Is it worth using it on him? I mean, he was trying to play for the Italian national team a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember. He was lobbying for it. He was never good enough to do it. But he was like, in Italy for a while. I don't know if his wife's Italian, and he was trying to get citizenship or something. He was appealing to Conte, or whoever the coach was, to call him up, Ventura. And that was never going to happen, obviously. It was preposterous. But he's the guy you're going to burn it on. He's Brazilian. You're going to burn the end pass on a Brazilian guy? They're black, but they're like, can I say they're barely black? I mean, they are, but they're kind of just, if you're Brazilian, you're kind of just like a mishmash of a bunch of different cultures. Black is one of them, so they all have you have a hint of everything. To burn it on Juan Jesus is that feels like just poor planning, If you could burn the M-Pass on anyone, if you had to, you got to burn it on you got to burn it on Balotelli or something, Because he was like the poster boy of racism in Italy. You want to be one of the guys who called Balotelli the N-word probably reflects a little more kindly in history than to have called Juan Jesus the N-word. Because then it's kind of like, hey, you called Juan Jesus the N-word. For what? Why? Look at him. Listen, should we throw up both of them and say, what's more, if you're going to call one of them the N-word, which one is more satisfying? The guy, we're not going to really throw them up, maybe. Juan Jesus over here, who's like, nocciola, hazelnut, and, Balotelli, who's like fucking, cioccolato espresso type of thing, It's like, not maybe not, it's not nice to call either of them that, but if you're going to call one of them it feels crazy to use it on Juan Jesus. IFTV have said, great, let's see what they have to say. Acerbi has been kicked off the Italian national team. He's not been kicked off the national team. He's been removed from the current camp. He's not been kicked off forever, but okay, sure. Let's restart. Acerbi has been kicked off the Italian national team after reports that he used a racial slur toward Juan Jesus yesterday in the Inter-Napoli game, which finished 1-1. If proven, he risks being banned for at least 10 Serie A matches, but it could be an even longer suspension. Inter released a statement that they'll speak with the player to figure out what happened before taking any action. Spalletti has always maintained that he doesn't just want good players in the Italy squad. He wants good people. Makes sense to get rid of all distractions from the team for these upcoming friendlies. Well, okay, that's what IFTV is going to tell you. Now, here's the thing. IFTV is going to give you one POV, but you're not listening to IFTV. Now you're listening to the Bordello. So let me tell you what the Bordello has to say. It's true that I guess it would have been a distraction. Spalletti used to coach Juan Jesus, which probably didn't help a whole hell of a lot. And it is, it's not a good look if you kind of ignore it and let the guy keep playing. You kind of have to get rid of him because of the accusations. But okay, so who's going to play in his place is kind of the problem, right? Now, again, these aren't important games. It's not the Euro. But if this is the Euro, are you banning him? Are you really banning him? I think you might say, there's an investigation. Juan Jesus isn't in the team. We move on type of thing. Spalletti. Now, again, how much of an intellectual is Spalletti? How much of a moralist is he? Does he spend a lot of time thinking about what's right and wrong? And he's, for a guy who's taking a stand on the racial front, and maybe this is the right thing to do. It doesn't look good for Acerbi. Can we say that? Can we at least say that after the game he went over to Juan Jesus and kind of apologized to him over something that was said, as if to say, hey, got the better of me. Unclear what was really said, by the way. Unclear how they'll they're not mic'd up. It's unclear how they'll even prove.
It's just Juan Jesus said it after the game.
Yeah, okay. Acerbi could just deny it, right? I don't think he will, but he could. He's denying it so far. He's saying he didn't say the word, But a lot of of people don't even know what the word is. I feel like I can say it, but I won't, but whatever. I'm not calling someone it, but sure. Let's apply the same rule as we would to the real N-word. Look it up, whatever. Look it up. I don't feel like giving D'Lo a word to bleep out here for no reason. But, like, whether he said it or not, is kind of neither here nor there, because the problem is it is a distraction here. But look, if Spalletti's taken the kind of moral side here, I guess that makes sense. But it is kind of ironic from a bald guy who looks like Mussolini, who now has the players before every practice session yell out fascist shit like Maglia, Azzurra, siamo pronti alla morte. It's like, hey, what are we doing here? Do you want guys who are like proudly Italian? Because if you kind of foster that, eventually you're gonna have some guys that go back in Serie A and say the N-word once in a while. You're not creating guys who vote for the Christian Democratic Party of Italy. If you play for the Italian national team, okay, and you win games and you score a goal, and there's a bunch of guys saying, "Say Italia," and you're fucking chanting the national anthem, and you're chanting before the game, right? Or you're singing the national anthem before the game, and before, every practice session, you have this chant. La maglia azzurra, siamo pronti alla morte, chi siamo l'Italia, chi siamo l'Italia. Remember a few weeks ago, we played that montage on TikTok. It was like a supercut of that audio. I didn't even know it was from the Italian national team's training facility. But apparently, like at Coverciano a few months ago, Spalletti held a camp, and before every drill started in the practice session, or I guess before every practice session started, he would have them all congregate in a big circle and
Buffon led it, no?
Call out that war cry. What'd you say?
Buffon led the chant, no?
Was it Buffon who led the chant? Well, you know what? That feels right. Dude, you got Gianluigi Buffon leading you in a war cry. Chi siamo l'Italia, chi siamo l'Italia. You're not going to become fucking more Christian Democratic. You're going to become more Lega Nord. I'm sorry, you're going to go back to your fucking home. Okay, you're going to come back to your wife and kids, a changed man. You're going to go back a little bit more, starved for a Mussolini-like figure, can we say. You're going to go back home a little more happy that Giorgia Meloni's the prime minister of Italy. Dude, we literally watched a supercut where, right after they say, Chi siamo l'Italia, for like the second time, it cuts to like a crazy beat drop, and there's like Italian warplanes overhead, and like military guys marching through Rome, and it feels on brand. And you know what? Again, it's a thing you got to guard against as a young man. I've talked about this before. But when you're watching in the moment, you're like, yeah, this is cool. So, what are you basically telling them? Hey, you got to compartmentalize it. You can't be in that mode all the time. Maybe Acerbi was remembering the time that Juan Jesus once said, I played for Italy, and maybe Acerbi kind of wasn't all about, he wasn't, whatever. Maybe it wasn't about it. What do you say? One of those. I will say, if you've ever heard Acerbi speak, he sounds very racist. Like, if you heard him speak Italian, he has a lisp. He's like, oh, però io mi chiamo Acerbo. Io sono Francesco Acerbi, però mi chiamo Acerbo, mi trattano da Acerbo. Ah, beh, però quei cazzo di neri, che cazzo ne fanno loro? Guarda la loro città. It's kind of one of those. I didn't just say the word, I said neri. There's a G in their N-word for some reason. Because by the way, you don't need to bleep this because I'm saying it in Spanish. How do you say black in Spanish? It's negro. So isn't it interesting? It's funny how, but apparently if you add ito at the end in Spanish, then it's the N-word. So, ¿cuál es el color del teléfono, del micrófono? Eso es un micrófono negro. Ese tipo aquí, ese pequeño, how do you say fucking boy? Ese niño de Nigeria. ¿Cuál es el color de su piel? ¿Es blanco o negro? Es un pequeño niño negro. That's fine. He's a little black boy. Now, it's a little weird. Oh, it just got a little weird. He's a little black boy. Saying that's a little weird, but that's not the slur for some reason. I hope I'm not saying the slur. I really don't think I am. I think like that is how you say. How about this? Don't bleep it. I'm pleading ignorance.
No,
If I'm accidentally saying it in Spanish, I'm pleading ignorance. But I really think that's how you say black in Spanish.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great. Now, if you say ito, like Pablito, if you say, here's the thing. I think if they call each other that, then it kind of is like, then it's kind of like, what's up, man? You know? I think there might be guys in Spanish-speaking countries that might call themselves that, but I don't know. All I know is if Sergio Ramos goes up to Juan Jesus and says it, but adds ito, then it's a problem. So, really all that was just an exercise in showing you how you could say the N-word in Italian by not saying it, because I just said it in Spanish. So apparently it's fine. That was a master stroke by me, by the way. That was a master. You're smiling, but it is, yo hablo español muy bien, cabrón. Muy bien. El micrófono es negro. Now, ora che sto parlando in italiano come Francesco Acerbi, ma adesso sto parlando in italiano. Il microfono è nero. Il microfono è questo. I said il microfono è nero. Questo è un microfono nero, no? Ma lo vedi o no? Questo è un microfono nero. Come ti chiami? Tristano? Tristan. Tu ti piace Tristan? Tristano è un nome molto stupido, no? Siamo d'accordo?
Sì.
Ok. Tristan. Questo microfono. Qual è il colore di questo microfono?
Nero.
Ma quello è nero. Ma scusa, quello è nero. Sto microfono nella quale sto parlando, quello è un microfono nero. That's fine.
Juan Jesus.
È brasiliano, che ne so. That's the thing with Juan Jesus. I don't know, he's Brazilian. That could Brazilian be a race? There's such a mishmash. Here's the thing: you'll have a guy that looks like Juan Jesus in Brazil, and his last name is like a Szymborski because he's like Polish. It really is a clusterfuck of different people.
Yeah. Some that are look almost Indian, like Rodrigo.
Sure. Yeah, Emerson Palmieri's not gotten called up. He's had a great season for West Ham. Great season for West Ham. I don't know that he would have been very happy with Francesco Acerbi in that moment, Because, Emerson's got some Italian lineage. I don't know. I think he's Emerson dos Santos Palmieri. So, sure. But he doesn't look like Lorenzo Insigne. He looks like a Brazilian Lorenzo Insigne. Here, you're pulling up a picture of him. Perfect. He looks like a Brazilian Lorenzo Insigne, which is to say a little Italian, a little something else, a little, a little like Portuguese banana boat vibe, type of thing. Because I think that's what a lot of the Brazilians with Portuguese names that were a little darker complexion. I think, a lot of them have Portuguese names because it was a Portuguese country, but, or a Portuguese-speaking colony. But they, fucking a lot of people just came over on fucking banana boats, dude. I mean, there was a slave class in Brazil for a long-ass time. And as a result, many of them intermingled. But I think, I actually don't know. I know nothing about the slave trade in Brazil. Like, basically nothing. I'm sure it existed, but I don't think it persisted for as long as the American one did. I think it just ended a while before, like, slavery was outlawed in the United States. That feels crazy, but I think it's true. And as a result, there's just been more of like I'm sure there are like racial undertones, I think, in Brazil, but I think it is more like heterogeneous as a society. It is. So you'll have people that came over on fucking banana boats. You'll have people that came over fucking in 1930 from whatever country. I don't know, Poland, whatever, Germany. I'm going to stop saying banana boats because it just makes me, it feels like that's a problem. I don't even know why. We're just talking about history and it's an issue, but that is kind of the issue with using that word now, If you call, if you call someone a slur now, it's not nice. But that's a really bad one, like in the context of the world today, just because of all of the context around it, and it's a really hard sell. Now, is this somehow a positive? Not that he called him the word, but that he's gone. Might it be good Probably not, because I think Bastoni's less comfortable, without him than with him. But, I mean, how the fuck is anyone even going to prove it? What a mess this is going to become now, by the way. This could be the scandal that Italian football needed, but unfortunately, it's 2024, so we get a non-sexy scandal like a guy is racist. That's the problem with this. We need a deeper, we need a scandal related to corruption. If the Tonali Fagioli thing had broken in April, that would have been good. That's a real Italian, scandal that we can get behind. I don't know. I mean, I don't have much more to say about this whole fucking, Acerbi thing. It's just, it's a real pickle, and it's unclear how it can even be proven. I think, this isn't a hill I'm going to die on, but can I say if he gets banned for 10 games, it could be without real proof? I think they might just say, yeah, it's a foregone conclusion, but I don't know how they're even going to prove it. What are they going to get, lip syncers out? Apparently, Luis Suarez, when he called Evra the N-word, en español, like 10 years ago, I think it was a case of reading his lips. They got a professional lip reader. I don't know. But, here's the thing. Here's the thing. No, here's the thing we haven't really said so far, which it is a crazy thing to say in a game. Now, you got to be really mad, I guess. The only way that it might happen is if you're mad and it just comes out. And you're just trying to say the most horrible thing you could think of. But it's kind of pointless, right? Like, imagine if he was just not... Because Acerbi's claiming, D'Lo, that he didn't say the N-word. He's claiming it's not what he said. But he did go over to him at the end of the game and kind of apologize for some kind of words that were exchanged. So what did he say without the fucking G? Did he say Nero? Did he point out the fact that he's black? That's even crazier at that point. He's like, what are you talking to me? You're fucking black, bro. That's crazy. That feels more nuts. There's no way that it gets said that doesn't feel weird. So, I don't know. Shoot him in the knee. Fuck it, Yeah. Well, I do like look. So 28 guys got called up, and I was a bit surprised that Gianluca Mancini didn't get called up at all, but I guess it's kind of good that he gets a look in now. But yeah, Mancini's kind of been like the last guy out for a couple of breaks now. I think he got called up 2 consecutive breaks now because of a dropout. So Casale's out. He doesn't even really play for Lazio anymore. He's kind of like, it's over with him. That whole idea of having like Casale and Romagnoli plays over. Romagnoli's not the guy. Can we say, here's what we know now. Let's have a little fun here now. Let's look at the squad. Let's look at the current squad and look at who was taken. There are 28 guys that were taken on this list. I don't want to talk about the goalies.
Do they always take 4?
Sorry?
Do they always take 4?
Generally, when they'll go with, like, if it's friendlies and they'll go with a bigger camp, yeah, they'll go with 4.
Okay.
I'm fed up with talking about goalies, guys. If you fucking look at the 4 goalkeepers that were taken and you're mad that Michele Di Gregorio wasn't taken instead of Alex Meret, shut up. What are you doing? Focus your energy on what fucking matters here, okay? Donnarumma's going to play every fucking game. Vicario might get a friendly game in here.
You know what's surprising?
What?
I looked up, what's that? It's like expected saves. It's like the expected goal equivalent of expected saves or something. Uh-huh. Vicario has the highest or second highest in the Premier League. Donnarumma has a higher one than him. Like, Donnarumma is going to be the guy. Like, people say Vicario's having a great season, this, that. And then you go look at Donnarumma's numbers, and they're still...
Yeah, he's still the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, with good reason. There's no point in not... there's no point in not playing him. Are you really... How stupid... No, but actually, though. How... Yeah, I'll say stupid. How stupid do you have to be to think that, you're going to throw Guillermo Vicario into the net in a major tournament for the first time? He's got 0 caps right now. 0. He's going to make cap 1. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember fucking 2010 Federico Marchetti playing for us when Buffon was injured. It wasn't ideal. I like Vicario if, Donnarumma gets into a fucking car crash or something or says the N-word to someone in France and has to, wait, sit out for a fucking little while. or gets caught, whatever. His Bet365 account gets leaked, as luck would have it, then yeah, sure, he's a good replacement. But yeah, no, he's going to be the guy. Enough of that. But 28 guys were called up, and I think 23 to 25 are going to go to the Euro. Maybe is it 26? 23 could be on the, there's 23 in the game day roster, but I think they've extended it to 26 guys now. It's like a thing since COVID. Can you look this up actually real quick? Just while you pull it up, I'll kind of go through the rest of the guys on the list here. But that is relevant because we'll know whether or not this is, close to being
23
of the squad. Okay, yeah. So I guess that was a COVID measure because there were a couple guys that could get COVID and have to, I don't know, step out a couple years ago back when we gave a shit about COVID. So great. So this is 5 more guys that will be called up in the summer. I'm just going to read through the whole list here. Fuck it. I'll read through it. Yeah, fine. We've got Darmian Di Lorenzo. So the defenders here are... Actually, no, here. We'll do it this way, okay? The central defenders are Bastoni, Mancini, Scalvini, and Buongiorno. And Acerbi was supposed to be there instead of Mancini. So we know right away. So yeah, Romagnoli's done. He is not playing. I think Darmian's kind of usurped him. Because Darmian can be a center back. He will play out wide probably. But he's not a bad... Here's the thing. We've often taken a guy who can kind of be a hybrid, just broader defender. And I think Darmian's going to be that guy. Do you not? I mean, he does play as a right back, mainly. But he kind of can play as a center back. It's valuable to have a guy like that. Remember the way that Danilo D'Ambrosio used to play? Danilo D'Ambrosio at Inter was I liked him for a while, and he got a couple of caps for maybe a year period, and he was brought in and kind of play right back, but it was with the idea that if we ever played as a three back, he's there. Armando Izzo was kind of one of those guys as well.
Danilo. Danilo for Juventus.
Sure, yeah, good example. So Armando Izzo years ago got called up a couple times. Same idea. He was basically a center back, but he was kind of like a guy that you would want in a 3-back, play a little wider if he had to run up. He's not very good with the ball, but he kind of could. There's always been this idea in Italian football that you could have a guy like that maybe in the team. Rafa Toloi was the guy for a couple of years, most recently. Prior to Darmian, the guy who was kind of like the hybrid center backs, fullback guy who can kind of play anywhere in defense. It was kind of Toloi. It'll be Darmian now. I think he's getting in 1,000%. Fullbacks for Di Lorenzo. Shout out. Raul yeah, this is a weird one. Raul Bellanova. And then Andrea Cambiaso, Destiny Udoge, Federico Di Marco. Di Marco is going to play no matter what. Mm-hmm. Spinazzola's done. He's playing for Roma, kind of. I don't think we're looking at him anymore. I guess he fell off too significantly. Palmieri's not getting called up. I mean, look, Di Marco has to be the guy to start. Udoge and Cambiaso are young and dynamic. I like them both, man. But I think ultimately, the couple of takeaways you could have here are like Riccardo Calafiori, who's having a great season, like at Bologna as a center back, is not going to get called up, probably. If he did, I'd be shocked. I'm a little surprised that he wasn't called up instead of Mancini, though. You kind of know what Mancini can do. It's almost like you could still call him up to the Euro, even if you don't call him up now. It's a little silly. I get that you probably want to have, a look at guys who you think are a little closer to maybe being on the cusp of making it now. So if he thinks that, Mancini's got more experience and that's more important in defense, and that's great. I guess you don't want to have too many young defenders. That's the thing. We get carried away, bro, because we think, everyone who's new is who we should be bringing in. We need Buongiorno. We need Scalvini. We need, Calafiori. Calafiori's not played a fucking, senior cap in his life, Buongiorno barely has. So even though he's a bit older and he's been around a while, he's not, that experienced. So fine, fair. The real takeaways are, who's omitted? So Palmieri omitted, little surprising, fine, whatever. We're pretty deep in the fullback position, dude. The center back position has kind of just become kind of bleak, which is why the Acerbi thing's a fucking nightmare, The midfield's not. I don't know, man. This isn't ideal. Look, so it's always nice to see a new guy get called up. Let's get to the midfield here. So we got Barella, Jorginho, Locatelli, Pellegrini, Bonaventura, Fratesi, and Michael Foloruncio from Hellas Verona. I'll say this, bro. Spalletti's probably called up the most meritocratic team that I've seen in a long time. Like, Bellanova's having a pretty good year. Foloruncio's having a really good year. He's having a monster year. The problem with calling up a guy like Michael Foloruncio is he's 27 years old, and I don't want to sound like a fucking idiot here, but he's 26. I apologize. But he's been around a while. Granted, you got to bear in mind that, like, in Italian football, nobody gets a chance, like, ever. Like, he's been owned by Napoli for a couple of years, and he's been on loan for, like, 4 of them. I think he's been at Bari, like, 3 years. 2 or 3 years, and he's fucking killed it. I mean, he was, like, one of the best players in Serie B last year for Bari. And he finally, like, got a chance to, like, start in Serie A, and he's doing really well with Hellas Verona. Like, he's actually playing well. You got to give him a start, probably, just to see what he looks like. It's kind of pointless to call him up and not play him. These are fucking friendlies, dude. But it's just like, dude, you know, if you're not good enough to, like, get in when you're really young, the odds that you're going to come in and be a, you know, difference maker right away is kind of lower. Does that make sense? Like, if you're really good from the time you're 18, 19, 20, and you, like, kind of burst onto the scene, it's for a reason. But some of those guys can, you know, plateau. Like, Locatelli's not going to get much better than he is now. He's, you know, he burst onto the scene. People thought he was going to be, you know, one of the best midfielders in the world. He's not. He's a good midfielder. He deserves to get called up, probably. But, no, you know, you could argue that Foloruncio's had a better season, right? But also, Foloruncio's kind of become, like, the focal point of the midfield of, like, Hellas Verona. Whereas Locatelli has a couple of guys who are, you know, really good to play alongside. And it's a different dynamic, dude. But fucking hate how much I'm talking about football here. Like, actually talk about football. But what do you think? Where did your head go when you saw this midfield? I'll tell you the first place my head went, and it was, I really fucking wish that Sandro Tonali didn't have a gambling problem.
Yeah.
And I really wish that Nicolo Fagioli didn't have a fucking gambling problem. And I really wish that Marco Verratti could have just stayed in Europe. Yeah. You know? Like
I'm not mad. I think it's what we expected. I'm not shocked by anything in the midfield.
He gave Colpani a call earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's true.
He did not call him now. But I think the idea is, like, he probably likes having one new guy who's doing well to take a look at and kind of see whether it makes sense. But new names give us boners, but they don't really give us much more than that, you know? Like, truly, like Fratesi's a guy who kind of a year ago was a newer face, and he kind of grabbed, you know, the opportunity he's been given by the balls. He's having a really good season at Inter, and he's looked really good every time he's played for Italy. I guess we'll know, like, you know, with Foloruncio, he might be, if he plays a little bit and, you know, fucking kills it and looks like he's not fazed by it, then I think you got to give him a look. The thing is, like, you just never really know how a guy's going to step up. But, you know, I'll bet you it's look, like, Pessina got omitted. He's the captain of Monza. He's not, you know, he's steady, but he's not, like, you know, he's not a fucking world beater. You know, Cristante omitted is a little surprising. I think a lot of people were really surprised by that, but you know what you're going to get from him. I don't know. I mean, fuck it.
I did not want to see him get called up.
Well, no one really wanted to. I don't think anyone was you know, having wet dreams about it. The one cohort of people you'll see is, because what you got to do is whenever one of these squads gets released on Instagram, what you got to do is you got to go to, you know, the comments and see what people are saying. Mm-hmm. Not because it matters, but because it's always funny. So you'll see a guy say, "Ma Callafiori e Fabian giocano a basket." Callafiori and Fabian, both from Bologna. What do they play? Basketball? And you click on the guy's account, and he's like, yeah, you know, 2002, born in 2002. Studi di finanza, Università di Bologna. Bologna Ultra, whatever. Fucking, there's like a Bologna Ultra group, and he's a fat, or whatever. He's got like a Bologna supporters group in his Insta bio, you know? Or like his profile picture is him fucking, you know, at the stadium in Bologna. It's always like the biggest hardo fans of a team that will comment, you know? Ma El Shaarawy, Spinazzola e Cristante ti fanno schifo, Spalletti. It's like, hey, yeah. We're not Georgia, bro. You know, Stefan El Shaarawy, if he's Georgian, okay? If he's Stefan El Shaaravashvili, you know, he's getting 170 caps. He's getting 170 caps. He's the most capped fucking footballer of all time, bro. He's fucking beating Ronaldo's record. He's getting 272 caps. You know? It's Italy. You know? The stakes are high. Because like, you know, you can be a really good player in a good league and get omitted. But, man, like, I'm looking at this team. It just feels like the midfield's like kind of feels like there's like a piece missing, and there is. It's Marco Verratti or like Sandro Tonali. It's like one kind of, you know, world beater. Why can't we just have a guy who's like the best midfielder of the 15-year period that he'll play? He's like the best midfielder of that generation. Why can we not just have them, you know, have the same lack of confidence that like I don't know, like a stand-up comic has or something, where they feel like, yeah, I'm insecure, I'm not good enough, I gotta work harder because I suck. It's like Tonali knows he's good. You need to have a bit of you know, that to boss a midfield, you know, to dominate a midfield. But it's like Verratti knew he was so good he could get away with smoking and shit. He tried smoking. He went for a run that day, and he felt nothing. So he kept smoking, and he kept running, and he kept playing, and he kept, you know, getting called up to the PSG team, and he kept winning titles, and he kept fucking, and he kept smoking, and he kept living life, and he kept drinking, and you know, whatever. You got to be like, you think Michael Foloruncho can afford to fucking place a bet right now? If he smokes a cigarette, it's over. It's done. He's got to, you know, he was in Serie B last year for Bari, 25 years old. He's got to be sharp, you know? You need guys who are just a little fucking afraid that it could all be taken away almost. The forward line's interesting. We got Chiesa, Raspadori, Zaniolo, Orsolini, Retegui, Zaccagni, and Lorenzo Luca. Now look, Lorenzo Luca makes sense. Is he mediocre? Yeah, kind of. But he's scoring for Udinese. He's a big guy. He's a big number 9. Immobile is done. You're never going to see Immobile again. It's a little surprising that Scamacca's not getting called up here, but he's also not playing like all the time for Atalanta. And I don't know. I guess that's kind of what it comes down to, the fact that he doesn't play much anymore, or as much as he, you know, I guess as you would hope. I'm really surprised that, and he's playing for a shit team, but I'm really surprised that, you know, Andrea Pinamonti hasn't gotten called up, like, ever in the last 2 years. He's a pretty good modern forward. He moves well. He's strong. Decent finisher. Good power. You know, what's going to happen, dude, is I think Raspadori's just going to wind up playing he's going to wind up playing as like a false 9. He's a really smart player, but he's not, you know. We're going to have to do it without a 9 again. We're going to have to do it without a big fucking punto. Do we even need one? I guess you need options. It's good to have like a Raspadori with like a couple of other guys, like a Retegui or like a, you know. Call it Scamacca. Let's say Scamacca, because up until a few months ago, everyone would have thought he would have still been there. That's good because you have a little bit of variety, but it feels like the forward line is just so weird. I mean, I
think Chiesa Orsolini on the wings makes sense.
Orsolini probably will make the Euro squad, dude. He's had a really good year, and he's one of these guys that's never really stopped being good. Does that make sense? He's never had like dry spells. He's kind of just always been himself.
He's playing for Bologna.
He's playing for Bologna, yeah.
Now that Bologna is having a great season.
Right. Yeah.
People have eyes on him.
But you know what? That's kind of the merit that you need to demonstrate, you know, in order to get called up. Because you know, being Pinamonti, being fucking on the, you know, verge of relegation and being the best player, you know, on a shit team is impressive, because if the team is playing badly and you're still scoring goals, that's you know, valuable. But I'm old enough to remember when Andrea Petagna was scoring goals for Spal. He wasn't getting fucking called up, dude. You know, probably with good reason, in hindsight. And I think like when your team is playing at a higher level, you're just more on, bro. You're just more on. You're more you're more connected to the sport. You're more connected to the craft. You wake up every morning with a little bit more, jump in your step. You're working towards something. Fucking Bologna can get into the Champions League. That's a big deal for them. They're going to be working for that right until the season's end. So they're going to be sharp. The players are all going to be sharp. Here's the thing. You can't call them all up. You can't call up fucking Fabian and Orsolini. You can't. Okay, they're both wingers, but you can't. Fabian's interesting. He's a younger player. I like him. Orsolini's been doing it for a long fucking time. It is sensible. Some people are surprised that Zaniolo got called up. I'm not. I mean, he's talented enough to keep playing. He's not playing a ton for Aston Villa, but the stakes are different. When you play in the Premier League and you're a talented player who can make something happen, who can create shit, it's I find there's a little bit more of a leash that's extended to you. Is anyone still calling for the inclusion of Balotelli? 6 goals in 10 games in Greece. It's a good record.
Turkey, no?
Yeah, what did I say? Sorry,
Greece.
yeah, Turkey. Tomato. Can I say that? Fucking. Yeah. So who's omitted? I mean, so we got Gatti and Romagnoli that were omitted from the defense. It's a little surprising. I guess Palmieri omitted as a fullback is surprising. That's about it. People who think fucking Calabria should get called up. Yeah, he's kind of, maybe, whatever. He's kind of mediocre. We have better dynamic, more responsible, right backs out there. So I think you're going to fucking play them first. The real kicker, bro, is that like 2 of the really top class midfielders we still have are not going to play. That's really upsetting. But I guess, listen, we're a good enough country, our country has a deep enough like national pool that we can kind of get away with it. Like France could like keep Benzema on the bench for years and still like do well. So we don't need Marco Verratti. He's not coming back, by the way. It's done. He would have to, he would have had to come back to Italy in, January, and he would have had to play for like, I don't know, Roma or something every game for 6 months. That was never going to happen, So we can kiss him goodbye, but it is frustrating when you feel like there are good players that are kind of on the bench. Berardi is a guy who a lot of people thought, yes, he's injured, and a lot of people thought he would have, still gotten called up because he's doing all right, I think, this season. But at that point, why not just call up fucking Pinamonti as well? I don't know. Look, I guess guys do, and Politano's another omission that a lot of people are kind of like, confused about. You do need a certain level of, you do kind of have to just say, fuck it, this is what it is at a certain point. Like we have to cut we have to cut off somewhere. It's not everyone who's doing well who's going to get in. Ideally, we would have more good players who are playing well, who give us, something to think about than not. But I don't know. I mean, I thought Grifo would get called up. I mean, Grifo's having a monster year, dude. Grifo's having a fucking great year with Freiburg. He's just kind of off the grid. But yeah, there are options. There are just a lot of different guys who are doing well enough to maybe get a look in. But if I tell you Vincenzo Grifo or Nicolò Zaniolo, who do you just yes or yes?
Zaniolo.
Why?
Because he plays in the.
He's just better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just. Yeah, but then you have like the ball knowledge people who will be like, if you actually pay closer attention, you'll see that Grifo is very important to the way his team plays, and he could offer a lot. Maybe, but there's enough depth that I think he's got a lot of guys to kind of, seriously consider.
Even if he were to call up some of these names that were left out, would they have started? Most likely not. So,
and that's the interesting thing. Let's look at who's starting here probably, okay? We'll end on this. We'll end on this whole note. Okay? Of the people that have been called up here, I think Donnarumma obviously starts in goal. I still think Di Lorenzo starts as the right back ahead of Darmian. I think Di Marco starts as the left back. Bastoni will start. I wouldn't be shocked. Do you think it's Scalvini? You almost just start.
Well, for the
does Mancini still start above the guys who got called up before him because he's more experienced, or is that crazy?
I think
probably Scalvini. It's probably
Scalvini. Just because Mancini was a late call up, so he wasn't in Spalletti's plans initially.
But for the friendlies, you might want to see guys who you kind of need to think
for the friendlies,
close.
I think probably
He might start Bellanova and fucking Cambiaso. Yeah. He might also not even include Bellanova in the squad. I think if it's a 23-guy squad that can play, I don't know how many players can be on a bench in a FIFA friendly, but let's assume it's still 23. Bellanova might not even fucking get called up to the team. He might just be there to be around and get a little exposure. But all right, fine. It's probably still gonna be in midfield. I would say
Barella for sure.
I would say start Fratesi, and it's probably going to be Jorginho, but I would start Locatelli or probably start Pellegrini ahead of them. But the problem is kind of none of them are like the deep lying guy. Also, we're bearing in mind that it's like a 4-3-3. We don't really know that it will be.
Apparently, there's talks that he might change it.
Like a 3-back? Yeah. So if it's a 3-back, then it's Darmian. It's probably Darmian, Bastoni, and like, I don't know, maybe Scalvini, because Scalvini plays in a 3 with Atalanta. Then the midfield, if it's a 3-4-3, you probably have like, Barella and like,
right?
Yeah, or maybe Barella and fucking Fratesi, maybe the Inter boys. And who's out wide? Who's out wide then? Is it Di Lorenzo or is it Chiesa or Orsolini? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? If it's a 3-4-3, then you have, Di Lorenzo play wide on one side and like Di Marco on the other.
Yeah.
Then you probably have Orsolini and, Chiesa flank Raspadori. But you got to see what Lorenzo Luca looks like.
I'm excited to see him.
So I'm excited to see a lot of these guys just because it's been so long. Can we say that the calendar makes no sense? It's like the season starts, you get right into international football before anyone has like any real, momentum going. I guess it makes sense to bang out a lot of the international games before the season gets into a real flow. But it's like the gap of months between November and March makes it really hard to kind of, know who's getting a look in between. There's no buffer. There's no like, in January, hey, there's no progress report between, November and fucking March. So what you end up getting in March is you often get like guys who are called up based on like, who's having the best season that given year. I highly doubt, unless we're talking about like Berardi, I'd be shocked if any guys that aren't in this list of like 30 guys isn't going to be, the pool from which the 23 that goes to the Euro is picked from. For some reason, that just, I feel like that's not great. It's a good team, but it just feels like, there's so many guys being omitted. But yeah, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because there are just more young players now that are being given a look in. In the past, you would have never seen Cambiaso, Udoge. Who else? Scalvini, maybe. There's always like a kid or two who winds up kind of sneaking into a team. But there might have been a bunch of guys who just weren't on the radar a few years ago. I mean, Bellanova was around years ago, but he just wasn't good enough. He's just gotten older, right? Like maybe that's all it is. And you got these old dogs that won't go away. Like Darmian is kind of a guy who you never would have thought would play again, but there's that weird wild card in Italian football where when you're a young, when you're a young guy, there's doubt. And when you're older, there's trust, and you can kind of come back. You can always come back. There's a chance that Lorenzo Insigne plays again at some point. It won't be this year, but in 30 years, Lorenzo Insigne could be 36 years old. It's highly unlikely, but he could be 36 years old and having a monster season in, Italy again. And they'll say, you know what? Ma è tecnico, è bravo. È bravo, è tecnico, che bel giocatore. It's possible. It's not likely, but it can happen. It's like the positions where, I guess if you don't need to rely on physique and you need to rely on your brain, then they'll give you a little bit of they'll extend the olive branch to you and say, hey, you can come back, So maybe that's what's happening here. It feels like it's a big pool from which to choose. And yet none of it feels that great. And it's because there's just a few, like.
No one's standing out as, besides maybe in the defenders.
Notonali sucks. It's brutal. It's a huge gap. It makes the midfield feel like it misses one massive piece. And the lack of bona fide central defenders is troubling. Let's see how the games go. Yeah, man. Let's see how they fucking go. So, but before we wrap here, what's going on? Are you actually going to play any soccer in any capacity this summer, or are you still incapacitated?
I have a appointment next month at the hospital. If everything goes well and he says my rehab is going to plan or whatever, then they put me on a 1 month like back to sports type of like program or training program.
Sure.
And then so
it sounds like a thing a thing they do for underprivileged kids at a youth center. They're gonna get you on the back to sport program.
I don't know, something like that.
Whatever works. Well, I think I'm playing for a dog shit team this summer. I've kind of quit, any ambition of playing at the highest level I could like last year. I might play like locally. I might go up and play like Division 1, but I'm not sure. I spoke to their coach. He doesn't know me. It's probably not likely. But I could. Like I know a bunch of guys on this team that I spoke to the coach of, but I might just say fuck it, dude, and do what I did last year and play with a fucking horrible team with the same club 6 years down, honestly, because they play on grass. They don't play on turf, and I like that better. And what I did was I bullied them into giving me the captain's armband because there's a guy on the team who was with that 7-a-side team that said, Sam, take the year off because of the Kanawake thing. So I was petty about that, and I said, okay, what? So-and-so's on the team, right? Is he going to be the captain? I can't have that. I need his armband. I need, as a peace offering. As a peace offering to be like, hey, I fucked up. I was a big homo when it came to that K-Town thing. Because the kid didn't step up and say, I think what you guys are doing to Sam is stupid. So I don't actually care that much because I understand.
I'm confused.
Yeah. What are you confused about?
This team that I thought they told you couldn't play on this team.
So there's a 7. You're right. I'm all over the place here. In the winter, I couldn't play 7-a-side soccer for this private league, for this QSL private league team, okay? For this Sunday league team that I was normally playing on. They said, no good because bad look. We're all gonna get doxxed if you play. Insane.
That was just for the winter.
Yeah, okay, but if you guys on that team kind of said, speak now or forever hold your peace, and a few guys said this is gay, and a bunch of guys said I'm indifferent. And one of the guys who said I'm indifferent is on this summer league team. Totally different group of guys. But there's one guy who basically runs the summer league team. It's an official, like it's a sanctioned league now. It's in the pyramid. So he runs this team, and I said to my boys on the team, I'll play, because they were asking, do you want to play? I was like, I don't know. I'd rather play Div 1. I said, look, I'll play if you give me the captain's armband. I want Mark's fucking captain's armband as a peace offering. And they said, really? I said, yeah, make it happen. And they did. So I'm happy. He's a good kid. He's a good guy. He just, whatever. I understand why. I understand why that group of guys in the winter did what they did. I think it was stupid. But I didn't love that there were guys who stood idly and didn't say, hey, you guys, just so you know, I know that it's still a losing case, but you guys are being fucking gay. They didn't do that. So that to me was, I think it gave me enough just cause to say, hey, I need a little bit of a remedial thing to happen here. I need a little remedy. I need you guys to smooth this over. So in true leader, as a true leader would, in true humble captain's fashion, I said, I demand the captain's armband, because that's who you want to have the captain. Is the guy, right? Is the guy who's demanding the captain's armband. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm doing this summer. And a bunch of guys are getting, cut, which is good. But there are a few guys who are keeping on the team for the vibes. And I have the theory, you need guys on a team for the vibes who you kind of rally around in a way that it's almost patronizing. But, if you have a fat guy on your team, it's not good, because it could be devastating. Every time he gets the ball, he'll lose it. But if he makes a good pass, you're like, oh! Everyone kind of loses their mind. And that's good for morale. So there's a kid on the team who's thin, who sucks. He can't play soccer, but he's fit. He can run. So he's there for the vibes. We like him. Nobody's mad at him because we know he can't play. And you need guys like that on the team. You need just two guys who are always going to show up, who cannot play, who never played in their life, when you get to low enough levels. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see, but we'll see what we'll see what happens. That's what I'm doing. I don't know. Get on that return to play program, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I don't know. You wanna, if you can't play, you wanna come coach my team? I'm the captain. I call the shots now. I'm the captain now.
I think I'm gonna play.
Fuck it. If you tear it again, what do you?
Yeah.
If you tear it again, who gives a shit? You got to play low enough level that it doesn't even matter. You could just say, yeah, listen, I got a bad knee. This is what happened to guys of our dad's generation, right? They would just have a bad knee and they would keep playing sports and they would just say, yeah, listen, I gotta sum me out. My knee's acting up, Good for you. Good for you, bro. So we'll review the games next week after they've happened. We'll see how things actually look. It's always fun to speculate, but we'll see how the games actually wind up going. And, I'm excited. I mean, I'll be watching them on European time, scheduled to go to London in a couple days, so that'll be fun to be there for a few days, watch the games over there. And, I look forward to going there and missing, Italians from Laval. I'm going to go there and the fucking Italians over there are going to sound British and shit. I'm going to be like, oh, this is, take me back to the sewer, where I belong. So listeners, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the viewership as always. And this is a little bit more of a serious tone pod. This is serious business. We gotta bounce back this summer. We really need to reclaim our balls. We need to grab our fucking balls and say, hey, we gotta wake up here. This is this is unacceptable, not making another World Cup. We gotta win another tournament. We're not gonna win another tournament, by the way. You could tell it's not gonna happen with this team, but I want it to be operatic as always. So here's hoping that this team can do just that. And we'll review the games in a few days. Once they've happened next week. So follow me at I'm Sam Adamo. Don't follow D'Lo. Pretend he doesn't exist. Wish him well in his recovery on the return to sport program. Return to sport program.
I think that's what he called it.
Down at the YMCA. And like the video if you haven't. Subscribe if you're new. Until next time, we'll catch you soon. Alla prossima. Ciao.